the vibe down at the Dome last night and the way these guys are playing, especially their star players at the plate, like, did you expect that? There was hardly anyone there, and it just felt like a Grapefruit League game. It was really weird. It's like the whole air came out of everything at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the same thing. Like, where was everybody? This was built up to be the series of the season.
No kidding.
And nobody was there. And I'm thinking, all right, well, maybe, it's a weekday and it's schools are in, and maybe that's the issue with it. And I didn't know what the weather was like. And so, obviously not affecting the field, but just, travel to the stadium. So I thought, all right, well, maybe there's some explanation.
But Steve, you were with the Mets. Like any kind of real baseball market, there's no schools back in session excuse. That's nonsense.
Yeah. It was a little surprising. And that being said, the team played like that. I mean, their approach offensively was as bad as I've seen all year. The first inning, Scherzer's throwing 93, and Scherzer's throwing 93, and they're late on his fastball. But Springer followed him off, Bichette and Guerrero. I'm thinking, wait a minute, like, turn these things around. They were hard of the plate fastballs, and then they just gave at bats away late in the game. They were swinging at pitches out of the zone, rear ends flying, no real approach to the plate, no discipline at the plate. It was not a very good showing. Now, it's been some part of the story this year that they've been inconsistent offensively, but that was, in a big game, and against Scherzer, who just got crushed the last time around. And then even when you got Scherzer out, their approach wasn't much better against the bullpen. So, it was a disappointing effort yesterday.
So, Steve, where do you go from here? I mean, to salvage this, if you can go 2-2 in this series here, what needs to happen? Is it as simple as the big boys just show up, or do you need support cast? Is it tinkering with the roster? Where do you start here?
Yeah, well, it's whatever it takes, right, to have to win a game. And so, you can't rely upon one formula. But, generally speaking, I don't count on the complementary players, the blenders in the lineup, to carry the offensive load. There are games during the season where that happens, but this is a team where Vladdy has got to get the job done. And I'm on SportsCenter tonight talking about that, and for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the expectations that he needs to be the guy who steps up, and he had some really poor at-bats yesterday. His rear end was flying. He was waving at pitches out of the zone. And the way I reference it is, I had John Olerud. You guys certainly are familiar with John Olerud there. And John Olerud never gave up an at-bat. Didn't matter the score, the inning, the situation, runners on. It could be first inning, last inning. His approach was always the same. He never chased a pitch out of the zone. He forced the pitcher to throw it in. When he got it, he took advantage of it. He didn't necessarily hit it the hardest or the furthest as anybody, but he always gave you that consistent quality at bat. And he never gave one up where it just felt like, that was a complete wasted at bat. And I saw so many of those yesterday, and Vladdy particularly, and he's had a lot of those. And for a guy who's that talented, and part of it is probably over trying and trying to do too much, and then he's disappointed and frustrated. But, and I think the other thing I mentioned too is he's the youngest player on the Blue Jays right now. He's still the youngest player on the team. And we don't really think about him that way because he's been around for a while, but he is the youngest player there. And so I cut him a little bit of a break, but, he taught us to expect greatness, and he's not giving it to us right now. And so I think it's reasonable to be disappointed. The key right now isn't what happened. It's what's going to happen today. He's in the lineup. And obviously, they probably can't afford to sit him, but they might not be able to afford not to sit him just to let him clear his mind. So he's in there today. Maybe he can get things turned around. And it seems like every time we sort of rail on Vladdy, he has that day where he hits a home run, drives in a couple runs, and he backs us off. And so maybe today will be the day. And listen, if they win the next two games, they split the series, they're in a great spot.